Okay, close any other browser tab. So let me get myself together. First of all, welcome. Um, for those of you who are joining me and kind of curious about what today's topic is about self-sacrifice and how self-sacrifice indicates a lack of self-love. When you are sacrificing yourself, that means that you don't love you. And I'm going to go into details about that and explain more of that to you so that we are on the same page. But before I do that, I am, again, Goddess Queen Jamila Osset, and I want to start off with just a little bit of breathing before we dive into today's topic. It can be tough hearing about yourself. It can be tough to have someone like me who's on the outside telling you what you need to work on and telling you that with full intention, with full intent, um, with full feeling. It can be challenging. So let's start off with some breaths to just get into a space, right? So you're gonna make sure your body's relaxed, and you're gonna close your eyes. And once you close your eyes, you are just gonna place your hands on your lap, and you're gonna take a deep breath in the nose, out of the mouth, in the nose, out of the mouth. Good. In the nose, out of the mouth, in the nose, out of the mouth. Now you're going to breathe in to 4 and exhale to 4. So breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3. Last one. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. Good. Thank you. So today's topic, self-sacrifice. So you know that I am the self-love specialist. That is my space, self-love. And there are many different ways to exhibit self-love, but we don't observe any of those ways when we are sacrificing ourselves on behalf of others. Now, when we talk about sacrifice, right, we want to be clear because sacrifice can look many different ways. So what we want to start with is a definition. We want to give a loose definition of what self or sacrifice is. So sacrifice is the act of offering or killing as a religious sacrifice. That's the official Google definition. So let's explore that. We all know sacrifice to be something that involves offering, right? Offering to another entity or giving something up. You're making a sacrifice. We all know that during the month of Lent, we give certain things up, right? And that is our sacrifice for the month of Lent, and allows us to bring in new things, right? We do that when we fast. We sacrifice certain foods. We don't eat these things. We abstain from other things. But sacrifice is the act of giving something up. You are giving something up. And when we are self-sacrificing, when you are self-sacrificing, you are giving up pieces and parts of yourself. And it's actually very dangerous. It is extremely dangerous to sacrifice pieces and parts of yourself, right? And I have my notes on my phone. So I'm going to be referring to my notes. And I'm going to take my time with this, honey. Because first of all right. So you're giving up pieces and parts of yourself for someone else. That is what self-sacrifice means. And for most of us, we grew up watching members of our family. It could be our mother, could be our grandmother, could be our auntie. We grew up watching the people that we love sacrifice themselves. We grew up watching them do that. And that was deemed normal for us. That seemed right. It seemed like the right thing to do. But as we get older, we realize that those sacrifices led to a lot of unhappiness, a lot of resentment, a lot of angst, a lot of stress. It led to a lot of self-imposed prison. And as we mature, we have to be willing to look at how our sacrifices contain us, how they demean us, how they force us into a hole. So with understanding sacrifice and understanding self-sacrifice, when you truly have an understanding of how it affects you, you understand, you can go deeper and explore why you're doing it in the first place. The reason that I have asserted is because there's a lack of self-love. Whenever I observe a student who is sacrificing everything, okay, they are sacrificing time, they're sacrificing energy, they're sacrificing money, right? They're sacrificing their opinion. There may be times that they want to say something, they don't say it because they're going to make the sacrifice. They're going to suppress everything that they got to say. When they're doing that, it's indicating some level of a lack when it comes to self-love. Because when you love yourself wholly and completely, when you love yourself totally, it's up to you to demonstrate that love to you. Like, can we be honest and say that your soul is always listening to you, that you are always listening to you, that you are always observing you? You're always observing you. And because you're always observing you, that means that any action that you take or don't take, it resonates with your subconscious. It resonates with the essence of who you are. If you want to do something and, this is something that's really burning in your heart, but you're constantly talking yourself out of it, then the message is, you can't do this. You can't do this. It could be you're not capable of it. And nobody else is giving you that message, but you are giving you that message. You're constantly giving yourself that message with the things that you're thinking, oh, I can't do it because of this, I can't do it because of that. And then you're reaffirming it. You're reaffirming your lack of capability with your actions by not doing it. Even if you desire to do it, it's like it's a war. It's you versus you. It's you versus you. And it's time for us all to be just very aware of what records we're putting on our own mental track. What record are you playing? What messages are you giving yourself? I talked a little bit about this before, but it's high time that we stop looking at parents and, other adult caretakers and saying, they're the reason I didn't do this and they're the reason I didn't do that. Okay, give thanks and praise. We've acknowledged that. And now that we've acknowledged that, the question again, I always ask this question is, what are you going to do at this stage and age of your life? Because if there's anything that's sitting at the base of your heart that has convinced your mind that you're not worthy, then it will reiterate messages that will completely deplete your self-love. We only make sacrifices, heavy duty sacrifice. We only sacrifice ourselves when we don't feel worthy. When we don't feel worthy. One of the telltale signs of not feeling worthy is trying to prove yourself in a relationship, right? So let's bring up a few different categories. And like I said, I have my notes here, so I'm just going to be looking at my notes from time to time. But we see this self-sacrifice made with business. We can see it with our children. And we can see it with our romantic relationships. When you enter into a romantic relationship and you find yourself trying to prove everything, I'm going to do everything for this person. I'm going to love this person into existence. I'm going to do more for them than their own mother has ever done for them. Like, hello, sis, give thanks and praise. No, no. You're trying to prove yourself. And the only people who try to prove themselves are people who don't feel worthy in the first place. When you feel worthy, you don't try to prove yourself. I feel worthy in my relationship, so I don't have to prove myself. And there was something that I was reminded of yesterday, and that is the element of resistance, right? So let's say that you are trying to have a conversation with Bae, and Bae is just putting up resistance. Bae is just reluctant to have that conversation with you. Bae is not trying to hear it. Bae making the conversation difficult. When you feel resistance, that is confirmation of an opportunity for you to transition into somewhere else, something else. Not somewhere else in the relationship, but transition and not sacrifice your time and your energy trying to force things on people. You really can't change anyone. And that's not your job. The Most High Creator didn't send you to this earth to try to change other people. That's not it. That's not your divine assignment. That ain't it. That's not why you're here. That's not your purpose. Sorry. Okay? Sorry, it's not your purpose. So if there is resistance that is popping up at any point in your life, if there's resistance, then sit back and get curious about that resistance. Why is this resistance here? Right? And is this resistance when it's dealing with other people, is this resistance serving me, or is this putting me in a position to have to sacrifice something? Do I now have to close my mouth? Do I now have to, use more energy to try to convince you to talk to me or to see me or to care about me or to love me? Baby, listen, stop that. Stop sacrificing yourself. Because when you sacrifice yourself, you sacrifice your needs, you sacrifice your wants, and all of these things mean you don't love who you are. When you love who you are, I want you to think, y'all know I love my analogies. I want you to think in terms of jewels. When I look at myself, I see a blue diamond. I'm highly valuable. I'm highly rare. I'm definitely worth it. I'm one of a kind. You're not going to find another one like me. Blah, blah, blah. Right? But one of the things about me being a blue diamond is that I recognize that other people are also gems and rubies and, gemstones as well. Now, I don't care what type of gem I'm interacting with. I'm not ever going to come up off of my diamond pillow. I'm not going to come up out of my casing and let somebody take my casing in replacement of me. I'm not going to sacrifice the essence of who I am or what I am for anyone else. I'm not going to use a relationship. I'm not going to use love as an excuse. We love to use love. I love them, and the problem is that I just love too much and I just love too hard. That's bogus. That's bogus. It's not that you love them too much or you love too hard. It's that you don't love yourself enough. You're not being loving to yourself. You're not even considering yourself. You're considering this other person before you even consider yourself. And how honorable to your heart, to your soul, to your spirit. How honorable is that? And that's not the point. The point is not to take you and put you in a box or put you in a corner, put you in a closet. That's not it. That's not why you're not here for that. Even when it comes to children, people love to use their children as an excuse. Oh, I can't do this because I just need to focus on my children. Do you really think that you are at full capacity as a mother when you neglect yourself so you can focus on your child? Right? If you need a whole cup of water in order to pour at least half a cup into your child, if you're only functioning at 10% capacity, that means that you're only pouring 10% into your child anyways. So how are you helping yourself? How are you helping your child? By neglecting yourself in the name of my child. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay? So self-sacrifice is something that we've seen modeled. We've seen it. We've seen our grandparents do it. We've seen our moms do it. We've seen our aunts do it. We grew up watching it on TV. We grew up in the culture of self-sacrifice. But self-sacrifice at a high level is just an indication of a lack of self-love. It just means you're not really feeling you. Because if you was really feeling you, you wouldn't be sacrificing nothing. You wouldn't be sacrificing nothing, even in business. Even when it comes to business. When you are running all over the place in business, and then now you're burnt out, you're tired, you're overworked, you're exhausted, that is a form of self-sacrifice. And your business is what you built. That's your baby. That's your creation. That's your mesh connect, as we would call it in comedic culture. So if you are running all over the place and you're not giving your business adequate time, adequate energy, if you're saying, I don't have time to sit down and focus and strategize and really look at my business, then how can you, this is what you created. This is what you created. This is your creation. Who's supposed to care about your creation more than you? Who's supposed to love your baby more than you? Whose job is that? Whose job is it to love you more than you? Whose job is that? And if you don't love you, then how can you expect partners and these people, how can you expect these people to pour into you in that same way if you're saying I'm not worthy of being loved, I don't love me, okay, anybody who needs me, I'm willing to show up and be there for them at any given time. I don't care. I don't have any boundaries. I don't have this. I don't have that. I allow people to walk all over me. If that is how you're functioning, then what is the vibration that you're sending out to the world? You know, these talks and these sessions are really about personal responsibility. That's what this is really all about. Personal responsibility. There comes a time where, as adults, we have to be looking at how our actions or how our inactions are speaking, how they're showing up in the real world. What doing something or not doing it says to ourselves. Your soul is always listening, right? We're mind, we're body, and we're spirit. So your spirit is always listening. When you all love to talk about law of attraction is great. But in reality, law of attraction is based off of the spirit. It's based off of the subconscious. And the subconscious is always listening. So if you are sacrificing yourselves, if you're sacrificing yourself on behalf of others, then what are you saying to the spirit? What are you saying to the soul? If you're willing to put everything else above you, And I've already, one of the best series that I've done, and I dropped that series in a week. I did a 3-part series called No More Mrs. Nice Girl that is available in the Compassion course. So when you buy the Compassion course, you get that as a bonus for free. You get the No More Mrs. Nice Girl for free. And the No More Mrs. Nice Girl, what I love about it is that it identifies a lot of the origins of this Mrs. Nice Girl persona that a lot of us have come to develop, that a lot of us have come to latch onto. We grew up thinking that it was important to be nice. Don't say that. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice. Why? 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 Who am I obligated to? Who am I obligated to? It is my choice. That's my choice. I'm not obligated to smile and grin and shuck and jive for anyone. It's a choice. I get to make that choice. But some of us have felt that social pressure for so long that it never seemed like a choice. This is what you were supposed to do. Be nice. So No More Mrs. Nice Girl, that series is a 3-part series, and it really breaks down those origins of that niceness. So for those of you who have already looked at the Compassion course and you're thinking about it, you're going to get that bonus for No More Mrs. Nice Girl. Free of charge. Okay? Because self-sabotage has a lot to do with or self-sacrifice and self-sabotage has a lot to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. When we tell ourselves the story of, oh my gosh, like this is what I have to do, and what are people going to think of me if I don't do it, and what is this going to be like if I don't show up in this way? That's all energy that has to be released. That's all energy that has an origin, right? It came from somewhere. It didn't come at the clear blue sky, and it has to be released. It has to be released. One of my favorite things to do in my coaching practice has been for me to help people identify their origin stories. You have an origin story. This thing came from somewhere. This belief system came from somewhere. This sense of obligation came from somewhere. So because we know it came from somewhere, the question is, where did it come from? And we get to go on a deep dive and to find out, where did it come from? What's at the base of that? Did it come from someplace in childhood? Did it come from someplace in the womb? Did it come someplace in the birthing story when you were born? Or was it something that you picked up in college? Right? There's so many different sources of these stories. But one of the things that I was thinking about, I was driving yesterday, and I was thinking about origin stories, and I was thinking about how, okay, so again, y'all know I love to do examples, right? So origin stories are like, they're like some sort of alteration in our growth, okay? So I'm going to break it down for you so you understand what I mean and you understand from a very clear place. So origin stories, right? An origin story is simply a story that we have told ourselves at some point in our life. So, at some age, at some point of our life, we told ourselves a particular story, and then we proceeded to latch onto that story as if it were a fact, right? So it stopped being a story and it became fact. Like I'm thinking this way, and this is no longer how I'm thinking, but this is actually a fact, right? And then as a result of us thinking that it's a fact, then because our soul has latched onto it, now everything in our lives begins to alter to that particular story. So let me break it down. So I want you to think of an alteration. Let's say an alteration like with this particular plant, right? So if I take this particular plant and I take a knife and I cut these things here. I cut those off, right? I just committed some sort of trauma to this particular plant. Okay. Now this plant has been altered. Okay. Now these things may grow back, and I would never cut you. So just be rest assured I'm not gonna cut you. Okay. But these things may grow back, right? But they may grow back differently. They may have stunted growth. They may grow to the right side. Okay, they're like, whoa, something hurt us on this left side. So now I'm going to alter and I'm going to grow on the right side instead of the left side because I don't want to get hurt again. Okay? So because of what happened, I could have cut it 5 years ago. I could have cut it 10 years ago. But as a result of the trauma, now that plant is growing differently. And this plant is a much better example of the trauma that I'm speaking about. So this particular plant, when I left the States, it was all here standing upright. Everything was growing upright. Everything was growing healthily. Everything was full. Like, these were all up and there was much more of them and they were all full. I happened to leave my plant with the wrong person. And my baby, she suffered all. My baby suffered. My baby had hard times all. And ever since then, she's been struggling to get back to her luscious state. Now, this is a plant, but we know plants carry energy. And I've had to speak, she's growing now. She's growing again now because I keep speaking to her. I keep pouring water to her. I keep speaking life into the water. But she is growing now, but she's growing with that origin story. She's growing with that story of my plant mom abandoned me, or somebody can't take care of me, or I'm not going to get enough water, or I'm not going to get enough sunlight. She's now acculturating herself and adjusting herself on the basis of that trauma, on the basis of that origin story. Okay? So that is why we are looking at a altered state. This is a Monstera plant. Monstera plants are lush, they are green, they got life, they got everything going for them. But my baby is just now getting her little bearings because she has been through trauma. She has been through trauma. And this is how we look when we go through trauma. We might start off healthy. We might start off in a full, healthy, lush place, but then something happens. Someone breaks your heart. Your first person cheated on you. Somebody dumped you. Somebody did something trifling. Your best friend did this, or your kid said that, or you got rejected in business. Whatever the case may be, you had an origin story. And as a result of that story, now you've been altered. You've altered yourself, or you've been altered in some sort of way. And now you have created a whole life based on alteration. Okay? Trauma. That's what we're talking about when we talk about trauma. When something affects you, it's like a blow to your emotions. You're down. You're in a depression for a week. You're hurt about it. You had to sever a relationship. You had to come back to yourself. You had to figure out who you were again. Those things are called trauma. That's a trauma. And when you experience trauma is not just experience in one dimension. It's experience mind, body, and spirit. It's experience on those 3 levels. Your mind experiences the trauma, your body experiences because your body feels it, and then the spirit because that's the emotional temple. All of these things. Okay? So when we have these traumas, when we have these things happen to us, these things now plant seeds inside of us. They plant seeds inside of us. And then we create a story as a result of that. When your father disappointed you or your mother disappointed you, we create the story that, okay, well, I can't rely on my father. I can't rely on my mother, or these people just don't love me. These people don't love me. So I can't rely on them. And once we create that story, then our life, everything in the universe, everything in life begins to adapt to support that story. I mean, I'm glad that everybody understands the law of attraction, but I don't think you understand how much of a honing signal you are for that attraction at all times, whether you're thinking positive or negative. And it's not the positive thought or the negative thought per se that is the honing signal. It's how intense that feeling is. It's how intense that feeling is. If that feeling is sitting at a level 100, if you're like, oh my God, these people they don't love me, they don't care about me, blah 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 blah, then you are attracting that at a level of 100. You are attracting that. So this message is not just for you. It's for me too. It's for me too, because we are always going through the process of unraveling origin stories. We are always going through the process of dealing with the things as they come along. Give thanks. Okay, so Goddess Ebb says, give thanks and praise. I definitely found an origin of having to deal with things on my own the other day. I know I have a support system who is willing to hold space with and for me when I'm transforming or processing awareness. Dopeness. 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 So that is legit. That is legit. Because when you've had to deal with stuff on your own, when you've had to battle through it on your own, then it can create insecurity around having people to have your back. It can create insecurity. And then you have to, that is why affirmations and mantras are so relevant. Because we have to counteract the thoughts that are now obstructing whatever it is that we've latched onto, whatever belief system that we've latched onto for so long. That's why the mantras are there. That's why the affirmations are there. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time I breathe, money flows to me. It all rains down so abundantly from the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, wave, wave. I'm a money wave. Like, these are the things that we have to reiterate to our spirit, to our soul, to demolish any form of trauma that might have come up with whatever particular subject we're dealing with. That one is money. That one is money. So if you're seeing like, okay, these things are not flowing, you got to get curious. If you're noticing, okay, I'm sacrificing myself. I'm doing more for others than I'm willing to do for myself. I'm doing more for others in business, more for my children, more for Bae. Like, what is this really about? We have to be willing to get curious. What is that origin story? What are you carrying around? What are you believing that isn't even a belief? That's not a fact. It's just something that's come as a result of something that you've been through. And how can you adjust that? How can you release that? Once you identify it, how can you release that? Sometimes you got to get balls to the wall and give everything you got. Give everything that you got to extracting something that isn't true from your essence, from your soul, from your spirit. You were not created here to sacrifice yourself. When you are sacrificing yourself on behalf of others, it implies that you don't feel worthy. You don't feel worthy of love. You don't feel worthy of the attention. You don't feel worthy of the time. You don't feel worthy of the money. You don't feel worthy. And that is what you are reiterating to your own self. It's not what I'm reiterating to you. It's not what nobody else, no one is doing anything to you. No one is forcing you to do anything. Anything that you say, I have to do this because, that is called an excuse. That's called an excuse. Because when it comes to you versus anything else on the outside, you have to make sure you take care of yourself first. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. People love to use their children. Oh, my children, I gotta do this for my. I don't have time to do this for me because I gotta do for my children. Baby, that just means that you are not valuable. You are not worthy. You are not. You are not loved according to you. You don't even love yourself enough to take care of yourself. You. And then what message are you communicating to your children? That's a very big part of all of this. When we learn sacrifice from our parents, we learn sacrifice from our grandparents. We learn sacrifice from these adult figures who we saw constantly sacrificing themselves, constantly doing more for others than they did for themselves. That's where we learned it from. So what you think? Your kids are gonna learn the same thing for you. If you're in that self-sacrificing modality, they're gonna learn that same thing. They're gonna be doing the same thing that you did. It's not changing. It's not changing. So it's time for you to get curious about what is causing you to self-sabotage or self-sacrifice. Because all of it just implies a low meter of self-love. When you are enthralled with yourself, when you are in love with yourself, when you are ecstatic about who you are, when you are aware of how you have invested into you, when you are lit and juiced up in the energy of you, you do not sacrifice yourself for other people. You don't sacrifice yourself. Okay? Now, you can be willing to give some time. You can be willing to give some money. You can be willing to give some energy. You can be willing to share energy with other people. You can do all those things. But it doesn't have to come from a sacrificial place. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. It's one of the things that I talk about in the chapters in Goddess Awakening, my book, which is available on Audible. Have you gotten the book yet? Have you gotten the book yet? Because this book lays everything out. Once you get this book, you are going to hear about my relationship with sacrifice, my relationship with self-sabotage. Okay? So these are the things to consider. If you do find that you are self-sabotaging, it's so important to go to the origin story and identify what you are believing about yourself that's putting you in the position to sacrifice yourself. What you are believing about yourself that's putting you in the position to sacrifice yourself. Okay? So I just wanted to come in and do this special, really, for the full moon. Tonight is the full moon. We are in the month of July at this time, so tonight is the full moon. And the full moon just represents harvest. It just represents harvest. And for all of my entrepreneurs, what are you harvesting? And if you're not harvesting what you want to be harvesting, if you tried to plant, cabbage or collard greens and you weren't able to harvest your cabbage or harvest your collard greens, then the question is, what is the belief? What is the thought that's holding you? What is keeping you hostage? Because you got to think, like with my entrepreneurs, you got to think about this business like this is your baby. This is literally your baby. Okay, y'all hear these ding, 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 dings. Let me take that off. This is your baby. Your business is your baby. Your business is your baby. So because it's your baby, if you're not harvesting, then why not? Why are you not harvesting? Hey, what are you doing? Why? You are planting things, but you are not reaping the harvest. So what is going on? Maybe the problem is you don't believe you can harvest it. You're not giving it adequate water. You're not spending enough time out in the field, tending to the crop. And why? Why are you doing this? Why are you wasting your time in this way? What are you doing? Hey, have you not invested? Have you not invested in the land? Have you not invested in the seeds? Have you not invested? So what are you doing? If you are not harvesting, entrepreneurs, the question is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because this is part of the self-love game too. This is all part of this self-love dynamic as well. If I paint something, this is a painting that my baby girl made. If I paint this, then that means that this is my creation. This came from inside of me. This is my art that I'm here. This is my gift from God that I'm here to share with this world. I'm sharing it with the world. And that means that for me, if I'm sharing it with the world, but if it's not selling, right? Then what is the real reason? What is the real reason that I'm not selling it? Am I not selling it because I really don't want to, because I want to keep it for myself? And what would keeping it for myself do? I have 15,000 of these. I've already done this. I've done it. So I have to go through the reasons. I'm not reaping the harvest because I want to keep it for myself. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want to keep it for myself. I'm not selling it because I haven't advertised it, because I haven't offered it, because I'm selling this painting, but who knows that I'm actually selling this painting? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows I'm selling it? Who knows I'm offering it? No one. If no one knows, how am I supposed to make sales? How am I supposed to make sales? And why am I not offering it? Then we go a little further. So why are you not offering? Why are you not advertising? Because I don't believe that this painting, can get sold at the price I want to sell it at. This is a $500 painting. But I don't believe anybody would pay $500 for it. And the next question, why do you believe that nobody will pay $500 for it? Well, I don't believe that because I remember when I showed my auntie this painting, and she was like, this is nonsense. This is rubbish. Nobody wants that. Nobody, who's going to want that? And now we can identify the story of origin. I don't believe that my paintings are worth the price tag that I want to put on them because of this particular trauma. That is the trauma. The auntie and that experience had the trauma, and then from that trauma, here's the origin story. And now, as a result, the relationship with the painting. Okay? So that process is what taking the compassion course is going to allow you to do. When you can identify that process, this is what I want. Okay, I'm not getting that. Why am I not getting that? That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to go through that process. We're going to identify all of those things, piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. Okay? And once you identify that, now you can work on that. So if the story that we took away from this is people don't want to pay the price, then we create an affirmation. We create a mantra. People love paying the price that I set for my classes because they know it, for my art, because they know it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm gonna get everything that I want from this and more. Everything I want and more. Everything I want and more. Okay? So for me, it would be courses. For you, it might be the painting. For you, it might be your copper products. Right? There's so many different things that we do in our Mesh Connect. There's so many things that we offer. Right? So what seeds have you planted? And what is happening with your harvest? Or what is going on with your harvest? Are you harvesting? And if you are not harvesting, then why not? What is happening? Maybe you need to call an expert and have the experts come in to help you. Hey, have the expert come in to assist you. Right? Because ultimately, if we were all sent here to earth, if we all agreed to come here to earth, And we agreed with specific intentions. We agreed to do specific things. We agreed to show up in specific ways. If there's something that's obstructing that from happening, then that means that there's a lack of alignment. Everything in this universal energy wants to support you in fulfilling whatever your contract mandates, whatever your earthly contract mandates. Everything in this life wants to support you in fulfilling that. Everything wants to. The only thing that doesn't want to is your ego, because your ego is so afraid and so full of anxiety and so full of fear and so full of anger and so full of resentment and so full of guilt and so full of the ego. And the thing about the ego is that the ego tries to protect you. It tries to keep you safe. The ego actually is thinking it's an ally, but really the ego can keep you small because it houses these origin stories. It houses all the trauma. It remembers all the bad things that happen and blah, 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 blah. So in order for you to transition, to increase your vibration when it comes to self-love, you got to go to the foundations. You have to go to the foundations. And that's ultimately what the compassion course is about. Going to the foundations and looking at the foundations and saying, what's up, foundations? What's really underneath here? What's really on the floor? What's really underground? I'm going to be willing to uproot all of this. I want to clean up all of this. Let me look at all the stuff in the basement. Let me look at the stuff in the attic. Let me look at the stuff in the closets. Let me get to the root. Let me get to the roots of where this has come from, because there's something at that root that changed the whole trajectory of this picture. And I'm not willing to allow that picture to look the same way anymore. I don't want to sacrifice anymore. I don't want to self-sabotage anymore. I don't want to do any of that. I'm ready to operate and to be in the full light of who I was created to be. And that's not easy. Even saying that right now, I gotta take another breath. It's heavy. I am ready to be to operate in the full light and essence of who I'm created to be. That's a big deal. Doesn't that sound like a lot of responsibility? It could be a lot, and there's a lot of unknowns after that. But the thing about it is, there is 100% satisfaction in carrying out all the desires of your heart. There is 100% sense of satisfaction. Okay? So even for me, in 2019, I put up a post, and I think I might have shared it on my page. That post was from my visit in Brazil. I went to Salvador, Brazil in 2019. It was an amazing trip. Oh my goodness gracious, goddess. It was amazing. But one of the things that I was very adamant about was working internationally. I had just launched the compassion course for the very first time. And I set a goal for myself to teach it abroad. So even though I was in Brazil, I was like, I am going to work abroad. I am going to be location independent. This is the first year that I am going to be location independent. So I set this goal for myself, and the goal was go ahead and get to the compassion course, launch it, open it, but you're going to teach it online from another part of the world. And that was my goal. And accomplishing that was bars. It was bars. If I could spit fire out right now, I'd be spitting fireballs. But what really anteed up that experience was the fact that I made a post that said, I'm thinking about planning a retreat, an international retreat. I was thinking about planning an international retreat. I wasn't planning it. I was thinking about planning it in 2019. And in 2021, I had my first international retreat. And that retreat was beautiful. It was amazing. It was everything and more. It was everything and more. And it felt good to be able to execute at a high level something that I had in my heart. Something that I had in my heart. I had it in my heart and I brought it to life. Right? Like when we see productions, when we see events, that's something that came from inside of someone. That's something that came from inside. And it was just a thought. It was just a vision. It was a plan. And that person brought it to life. So it's so important for us to acknowledge the things that we have in our heart, the things that we really want to do. You know, one of the things that I really want to do, and I haven't let go of it, and I'm sure I won't let go of it, is really having a strong community, a strong spiritual community for women, and really being able to nurture people through their spiritual journey. So that's something that I've had in my heart for years. And I'm slowly seeing the pieces trickle, but now I'm ready for it to just boom and for it to explode. So that is that. But there is such a level of fulfillment that comes from bringing to life the things that we have on the inside of us. You know, that's why I always ask people, what do you want? What is the desire of your heart? What do you really want? What do you really want? What's there? You know? So, and again, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I cover everything. Oh, okay. So Goddess is saying, you did think about creating a retreat overseas. I did. I really, really did. I wanted to do that retreat in Brazil first, but Spirit was like, nope, we're going to do this thing in Africa. You know, and I give thanks because part of me loving myself in business is me not abandoning certain things in business, certain visions in business, because there's such a level of responsibility of task, of this, of that, you know, putting everything together. In my book, I talk about how I was diagnosed with ADHD years ago. And so it was a struggle for me to even put together small things, small events. But now here I am putting together international retreats, right? And that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I got my business card the other day, and on the front of it, it said Abundant Africa, African Goddess Retreats. And I did this. I've had that account since 2016. So I'm like, I knew something that I didn't know back then. You know, so there's so much that we have the power to create, but we truly limit ourselves when we are carrying around these origin stories that instead of having us pour into us, they have us pouring into others more than we pour into ourselves. They have us sacrificing everything about ourselves. They have us self-sabotaging. They have us doing all these crazy things to win over the attention and the affection and the love of other people. When in reality, the truth is that you should be the one to win over your own love and your own affection. You should be proving all this stuff to yourself. You should be showing yourself. You won't need to sacrifice anything for anyone when you feel wholeness, when you feel complete, when you feel full off of your own love. Okay? So we are moving from a place of sacrifice and inadequacy to a place of completeness and a place of wholeness. And if you're watching this and you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I really need to be in the compassion course, then click the link to enroll. Click the link to enroll because you can start. It's a self-paced course, pretty much self-paced. I always suggest that you do it over a period of a few months and you take your time with it. Because as you go through it, there's lots of hurts, there's lots of pain, there's lots of old wounds, there's lots of traumas, there's lots of things that come up when you're doing what's considered to be the work. Okay, when you're doing the work, there's always things that come up, and you'll need support with that. But some of you are just now discovering that you are healers. just now walking onto the healer path. I had a young lady call me yesterday. She started listening to my book on Audible, and she called me, and she was so excited and so emotional and etc. And she said something to me that I never heard anyone say before in my life. She said, Goddess, I'm a new soul. I think this is my first life. I never heard that before. I never thought about somebody being completely brand new to earth. Like, this is my first time here. Give thanks and praise. Like, I never thought about that. And it was so interesting to me to even allow that to roll, because it reminded me of how much support is necessary when you're new to this spiritual game, when you're new to the spiritual journey, even when you've been doing it for a while. Even when I've been on the journey. I really jumped into my spiritual journey around 2011. Okay, I jumped in 2000, but I went back to sleep because there was nobody around me to really help me through it and support me. And that's a big thing. When you don't have people around you to help you and support you, you can often think that you're going crazy, so you can go right on back to sleep. So I went right on back to sleep. But I woke up again 2011, and I actually had support this time, so I stayed awake. And the thing about that particular experience is that it was tough, and it was extremely tough. I went through a lot of mental health challenges at the same time, because when you're going through certain things and you don't have the understanding, the understanding, you don't even have the full access of your intuition. You don't know who you are. You don't like, you're waking up and you're like, what is this? I'm a whole unicorn dragon. I'm a whale, but I don't know why I'm a whale and where am I? Like, it's confusing. It can be confusing. It can be a lot. And so when I went through that, because it was so intense, it helped me to understand a lot of the basics. And the basics are relevant because as you go in, even right now, that's 11 years ago. And I still have to work with leaders. I still have to work with shamans. I still have to work with mentors. I still have to work with my elders. I be so floored sometimes when I observe people and they be like, oh, I'm doing this by myself. I be like, you really think with all these people on this earth, you really think that was the point? You really, and it's such a Western approach to spirituality. Western approaches to life always involve the individual. It's very individualistic. It's very individualistic. There's a difference between individualism and self-love. Don't confuse self-love with individualism. One of the things that I want to beat the drum beat, blow the horn about, is the biggest plug of self-love. The biggest plug of self-love. What self-love allows you to have is a whole self to now be in relationship with whole others. Let me say that again for people in the back, because I don't want you to confuse. There's even this concept that self-love, is aligned with selfishness. It's not about selfishness. It's not about being selfish. It's not about being selfish. Okay? What it's about is being whole, is being balanced, is being complete. It's about the completion. It's about you being a human being full of traumas and full of hurts, full of pains. So essentially full of holes. You're full of holes. But this is not about having holes, but this is about being whole, being complete. That's what self-love is all about, not about being selfish. There's a difference between even being selfish and having boundaries. You can have boundaries, but you don't have to be selfish. Selfish even implies trauma, that you're still reacting to something based off of what happened to you. I gotta be selfish. Okay, but what happened to you? And why you don't heal that? So you don't have to be selfish. You can have boundaries. You can still be joyful. You can still be loving. You can still be harmonious, but you don't have to be selfish. It's levels to this. And let's have understanding when we talk about this. Because a lot of people that y'all see, online, they're not going to take the time to break this down. They're not going to take the time to explain this. They're not going to take the time to teach you. to teach you the theory of it. And this is no knock against any traditional system, the Kemetic traditional system, the Ifa, Yoruba spiritual system, Santeria, all of those things, magnificent. You know, Buddhism, great, give thanks and praise. All that stuff that people be doing, you know, a tradition, give thanks and praise. But the reason that I created the compassion course is because after all of that traditional stuff, after you finish doing your tradition and you finish making your offerings and your altar and your bovadan, all that other great stuff, there are still things in your foundation that affect you in your day-to-day life. That's the bottom line. We are still affected by things that have happened to us. Bottom line. There's still traumas that have taken place in our life that still affect the way we think. That's it. That's it. Okay? And if you are reacting to those traumas, you know, by being selfish, by being individualistic, then that means that you still have more healing work to do. You still have more healing work to do. You still have some ways to go. You still have some ways to go. Okay? So that is essentially what this is all about. It's not about being individualistic. It's about being communal. It's about huddling in. The way that the system has been able to make us weak is by making us individualistic, by separating us, by making us feel like I can do this all by myself. And that's not the way to really function properly as you're on the spiritual journey. Especially if you're a woman. If you're a woman, you're definitely going to grow more, quicker, faster, better, more efficiently with community. Instead of sitting over there in the corner talking about, I don't want to burden anybody with my problems. You don't have to do that. You can just grow. We can grow as a community. And that's why my big goal had been to create a solid spiritual community, which I have, and I'm so proud of. And I'm also proud and happy for us to grow and evolve. And if you're interested, we would love to have you. But taking the compassion course is a requirement for any new entry, any new student, any new attendee for our programs. So if that is something that you are interested in doing, then please make sure that you ask any questions that you have so that I can answer them. There are, I think, 6 modules in the course. It's a really excellent course. So many people have gone through the course and have completely revamped their relationship with loving themselves. There are reviews on YouTube about the testimonials and those experiences. So check those out. Check those out. The compassion course, check it out on YouTube. So outside of that, that is what this is all about. I'm so I give thanks that you have joined me here today, even though I'm still struggling to see. Oh, okay. All right. God, it says I compare the work to the ways and the things that happen. Yeah, it's the work. We all got work to do. I mean, I'm 11 years in the active game, and I'm still doing work. I went to Africa, and I thought Africa was it. You know, this is the highest level I can be on any land. And I went to Mexico. Mexico was like, first of all, I got pyramids too, sis. I was like, wow, Mexico, look at you. Pyramids, right? So, and then the Mayans. So there's always more. There's always more. There's always more. And there's always more that we can pour into ourselves. The more you pour into yourself is the more you are able to be in communion, in a relationship with others. It starts with you. So if there's something that's not becoming in your relationship with yourself, go back and investigate. What is that story? What are you carrying? What are you believing? What are you thinking? What are you identifying as fact that's not even fact? And then how do you uproot that? So I know that today was a very juicy session. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. I always say this, and it's always a trip to me. When you encounter pieces of value, share that with the people that you love. Share the things that are valuable with the people that you love so that they can benefit from it too. Right? So if you're watching, especially on the replay, and you're like, okay, this is definitely juice, this is juice, then by all means, share with the people that you love. Share the people that you really, really want to see grow and evolve and develop and be better than they were last month, last year. Okay? Let's let this growing process become bigger than ourselves, right? So, with that being said, I love you all so much. Um, if there are any questions, I am more than happy to answer questions. But you can always send me a message with the questions. Um, no, you're not interrupting. You can always send me a message with the questions, and we will go from there. Let me just make sure I cover all of my little notes. All right. No questions? Give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. So I will see you all sooner rather than later. Thank you for joining me. I am Goddess Queen Jamila Osset Jaas. And yes, you are very welcome. You are very welcome. I'll see you soon. Take care. And happy full moon. Happy full moon. Happy full moon. Give thanks.